The night. Our school became a nightmare, the scariest unexplained event that changed everything. I've always been the kind of person who notices the small details most people ignore. The way the wind shifts before a storm, the faint smell of smoke that no one else seems to smell, or the way shadows linger just a second too long. That's probably why, even on my first day back at Willow Creek High, something about that school felt off. Willow Creek was one of those schools that looked normal from the outside. Brick walls, the classic bell tower, and a parking lot filled with students juggling skateboards, lunchboxes, and the occasional dramatic entrance. Inside, it was just as chaotic as any high school. Lockers slamming, gossip spreading like wildfire, teachers trying to maintain some sense of order, and the occasional fire drill that no one actually took seriously. But underneath all that normalcy, there was a pulse to the place, something that made the hair on the back of your neck stand up if you paid attention. My friends, Lena and Marcus, were the type who thrived on gossip. Between classes, they'd lean over my shoulder, whispering the latest rumors like they were confidential state secrets. On this particular morning, the cafeteria was buzzing more than usual, with students clustered around tables talking about the old abandoned wing of the school. Dude, someone said they saw a shadow move over there last night, Marcus whispered, his eyes wide. Lena snorted. Please, that place hasn't been used in years. It's just dust and old desks, probably a janitor's reflection or something. I didn't say anything, but I felt a tiny spike of unease. The abandoned wing was real, and it was creepy. We'd all been warned as freshmen never to go near it. No one really remembered why it had been closed off. Some said it was due to structural issues, others claimed it had always been haunted. The stories had a way of growing more dramatic each year. Haunted? Yeah, right, I murmured, mostly to myself. But even as I said it, my eyes drifted toward the shadowed hallway that led to that wing. Something about the cracked windows and peeling paint made the place look alive in a way that normal hallways weren't. Classes went on, of course. I had English first, and Mrs. Harlow was her usual mix of distracted and sharp. She handed back essays, shuffled papers, and occasionally lectured about grammar with the kind of intensity that made you think she'd correct a murder scene if it had bad punctuation. Lena and Marcus, predictably, spent most of the class debating whether someone had actually seen a ghost. I tried to focus on my essay, but a part of me couldn't shake the feeling that the abandoned wing was watching. By lunch, the rumors had grown. A few seniors claimed that strange noises had been coming from the wing at night. Whispers, creaks, and footsteps that didn't belong to anyone living there. Some students even said their phones had stopped working when they got close. Marcus, of course, was thrilled. This is insane. We should totally check it out tonight. I bet it's some kind of paranormal thing. Lena rolled her eyes. Or it's rats. Big, loud, terrifying rats. You do the math. I laughed along, but the unease had settled in my chest. I tried to ignore it and focus on the mundane. Homework, cafeteria lines, the awkward small talk that made up high school life. But the shadows in the hallways seemed to grow longer, almost stretching toward me. It was during third period that I noticed the first small, genuinely strange thing. We were in chemistry, mixing compounds in Bunsen burners like we'd been trained to do when the lights flickered. Just once, for a second. But when you're focused on a test tube, even a second feels like an eternity. Marcus groaned. Great. Power flicker. I swear this school is haunted or something. Lena rolled her eyes again. It's a school, Marcus, not a horror movie. But then it happened again. This time, the flicker lasted longer, maybe 3 or 4 seconds, and I saw it. Just for a moment, a shadow crossing the ceiling, darker than the flickering lights, moving in a way that didn't match the normal shadows in the room. I blinked and it was gone. I told myself it was a trick of the light, my mind playing games, but the unease was creeping up my spine, slow and insistent. After school, we walked through the courtyard toward the bus stop. The air had that weird, late afternoon stillness, the kind that makes you feel like someone's watching you even when no one is around. I noticed students giving nervous glances toward the abandoned wing. For some reason, it had an aura, like the building itself was holding its breath. That place creeps me out, Lena admitted quietly, which was rare because she usually acted fearless. I know, right? Marcus said, trying to sound casual. I swear if something's there, I'm filming it. Big YouTube Ghost Special, Willow Creek edition. I laughed, but my laughter was hollow. There was something about that wing, something that didn't belong. That night, I stayed up scrolling through my phone, trying to convince myself I was just being paranoid. But around 11:30, I got a notification from a group chat with a few friends who had stayed late for detention. One of them had snapped a photo of the abandoned wing. At first glance, it looked normal. Dark, broken windows, graffiti on the walls, but then I saw it. In the faint glow of the security light, a shadow moved across the hallway. It wasn't a person. Not really. Too tall, too fast, and it didn't have the right proportions. It disappeared before anyone could get a good look. I froze. My stomach dropped. The next day, I couldn't focus on class. Every time I walked past the hallway leading to the abandoned wing, I felt my chest tighten, and then it happened. The first fully unexplainable occurrence that no one could shrug off. During lunch, Marcus and I dared each other to peek into the wing from the cracked door. There were only a few students nearby, and the wing had been empty for decades, or so we thought. I pushed the door open just a little, careful not to make a sound. The air inside was stale, heavy, and almost cold in a way that didn't match the spring afternoon outside. My flashlight barely penetrated the darkness. And then I saw it. A shadow. Not a trick of the light this time. Not a reflection, not a prank. A real moving shape slipping along the wall on the far side of the hallway. It was tall, lanky, and impossibly fast. Marcus gasped beside me. Did you see that? He whispered, his voice trembling. I nodded, unable to speak. The shadow paused at the end of the hallway, just for a second, and then it vanished. No footsteps, no sound, nothing but the empty, abandoned hallway. We backed away, heart pounding, and the door swung shut behind us with a soft creak. I couldn't tell if it had been pushed by the wind or something else. After that, the school day felt different. Everyone moved a little slower, glanced toward the abandoned wing more often, and whispered in hushed tones. Something had changed. And I knew deep down that this was just the beginning. Something had awakened in Willow Creek High, and whatever it wasn't done yet. I didn't know it then, but by the time the week ended, we'd all be questioning what was real, what was imagined, and whether we'd ever feel safe in our school again. And that shadow, that was the first warning. I wish I could say that after seeing that shadow in the abandoned wing, things calmed down. That maybe it was just a fluke, a weird trick of light, or some overactive imagination. But no, Willow Creek High didn't let me or anyone else forget. In fact, the very next day, the school seemed different, heavier, tense, like a storm had rolled in overnight and we were all just waiting for it to hit. It started in the second period. During history class, Mr. Delaney was droning on about the Industrial Revolution, but I barely heard a word. My attention was stuck on the back corner of the room, where a small group of students whispered in a tight huddle. Every few seconds, they glanced toward the hallway like they were expecting something or someone to appear. And then it happened. Jenny Marks, one of the quiet seniors, disappeared. I'm not exaggerating. One second she was sitting there, doodling on her notebook like always, and the next, she was gone. Not in the bathroom, not in the hallway, not in detention or the nurse's office, any of the usual places a student might wander off to. Just gone. At first, no one reacted. Mr. Delaney assumed she was late and called out, "Jenny, where are you?" with that tired, rehearsed patience teachers get when students wander. When she didn't answer, he shrugged and continued lecturing. It wasn't until her desk chair was empty for more than a few minutes that someone realized she really hadn't come back. Maybe she just slipped out, Lena whispered to me, her voice tight. She probably went to the bathroom or something. I didn't think so. Something in my gut told me that this wasn't just a normal disappearance. Marcus's eyes were wide behind his glasses. That's really weird. She didn't even pack her stuff. She just vanished. I nodded. I felt that familiar prickle crawling up my spine. Something was wrong. Something wasn't right. By the time we got to the principal's office, the rumor mill was already spinning. Jenny Marks vanished. The halls were buzzing. Students whispered, half in panic, half in morbid curiosity. But when Principal Harris addressed the school over the PA system, he brushed it off like it was no big deal. Jenny's probably just out of sight, he said in that calm, practiced tone adults use when they don't want to admit they're scared. Please, everyone, continue with your day as usual. Let's not spread unnecessary panic. Unnecessary panic. That phrase alone made my blood boil because it wasn't unnecessary. Something had happened, and it wasn't normal. We returned to class, but the tension was palpable. And then came the weird stuff. The first message over the intercom. "I see you." It crackled, distorted and eerie, and the sound made everyone in the room freeze. Teachers tried to play it off as a technical glitch, but it didn't sound like static. It sounded deliberate, almost taunting. Then things started moving on their own. My pencil rolled across the desk by itself. Marcus's backpack zipper opened and closed like someone invisible was checking inside. Chairs scraped floors, even though no one was near them. And every time I glanced toward the hallway, I thought I saw shadows flickering just outside the classroom door, shapes that moved too quickly, too smoothly to be students. Did you see that?" Marcus whispered again, voice shaking. I nodded. Yeah, no one else seemed to notice, or they were too afraid to admit it. By lunchtime, the rumors were in full swing. Some students claimed they'd seen Jenny in the cafeteria walking past like nothing happened, only to vanish before anyone could approach her. Others swore they heard whispers calling their names, even when the halls were empty, and everyone had their own theory. Ghost, prank, secret passage, alien experiment, you name it. Lena tried to calm us down. Look, okay, maybe it's some prank. Maybe Jenny's in on it. You know how seniors get. But my gut said otherwise. Something was happening in that school that day. Something beyond pranks, beyond imagination. Third period was history again, because of some scheduling mishap, and as we were walking back to class, the hallway doors slammed shut behind us, one by one. Not gently, like a breeze catching a door. Forcefully, like something wanted to trap us. Marcus's voice trailed off as he tried to open the nearest door. Locked. Relax, Lena said, though her face betrayed her words. Probably just a jam. Happens all the time. But the light started flickering again, and in the brief moment of darkness, I thought I saw someone, or something, standing in the middle of the hallway. Tall, shadowy, just like yesterday, but more solid. And then it disappeared. A collective shiver ran through the students. We weren't alone. By fourth period, chaos was creeping in. Students refused to go near the abandoned wing, even for passing between classes. And yet, Every so often, we'd hear footsteps echoing from that direction. Slow, deliberate, and wrong. It didn't sound human. And then, in biology class, things went fully unexplainable. Our microscopes, carefully aligned on the lab tables, started sliding across the counters on their own. A jar of preserved frogs toppled over, breaking with a loud crash. Students screamed. Some bolted for the door, but every exit seemed to lock behind them. Panic was spreading. Teachers were yelling, trying to maintain control, but even they looked terrified. I kept my eyes on the windows. The abandoned wing loomed just beyond, silent and dark. That's when I saw it. A shadow moving along the hallway, peeking around corners as if it were watching us. It stopped for a moment, staring straight at me. I swear I could feel its gaze through the glass, cold and piercing, then it vanished again. No one believed me when I tried to explain. "I saw it," I said to the teacher. "It's your imagination," Mrs. Camden said, her voice tight. "Everyone, calm down. Stop spreading fear." But I wasn't imagining it. None of us were. By the end of the day, Jenny returned. Calm, smiling, as if nothing happened. But her eyes, they didn't match the rest of her face. There was something distant, haunted. She didn't remember anything. She couldn't explain where she went or what she saw. And of course, the administration said it was probably a momentary lapse, maybe fainting or wandering off without realizing. Everyone was told to move on. No one moved on. Over the next few days, small things continued. Lockers that wouldn't open, whispers over the intercom repeating student names, strange cold spots in hallways, and fleeting shadows glimpsed out of the corner of your eye. The fear was spreading like wildfire. Students avoided the wing entirely. Marcus started recording everything on his phone, determined to catch the ghost, while Lena and I tried to make sense of what was happening. It was clear. Whatever had appeared in our school, whatever had taken Jenny, or whatever had made her vanish, it wasn't done yet. And now, more than ever, Willow Creek High felt like a place caught between the ordinary and something horrifying. By the time I left that day, I couldn't shake the feeling that every corner, every hallway, every classroom had eyes, watching, waiting. I had no idea just how deep this was going to go. After Jenny's disappearance and sudden, eerie return, Willow Creek High didn't feel like the same school anymore. Every hallway, every creak of the floorboards, every flicker of the lights seemed loaded with something unspoken, something waiting just out of sight. And for a few of us, me, Lena, and Marcus, it became impossible to ignore. We had to know what was happening. It started after school one Thursday. Most students were long gone, huddled in their homes or whispering online about the ghost of the abandoned wing. Marcus, ever the adrenaline junkie, insisted we investigate. Lena was reluctantly on board, mostly because she didn't trust Marcus to do anything remotely sensible alone. I had my reservations, but my curiosity outweighed my fear. We met in the parking lot, just as the sun was dipping behind the school. The abandoned wing loomed like a dark sentinel against the fading orange sky. Even from a distance, the cracked windows, chipped paint, and warped doors gave the impression that the building itself was alive, waiting. "Are we really doing this?" Lena asked, her arms crossed, trying to look brave but failing miserably. "Yes," Marcus said immediately. "This is our chance. Evidence, guys. Proof. Paranormal activity documented by yours truly. We could go viral." I just nodded, gripping my flashlight a little tighter than necessary. The main doors to the wing were chained and padlocked, but the fence that separated the old courtyard from the wing was broken in one corner, a convenient, slightly ominous entryway. We slipped through, trying to keep our shoes quiet on the gravel. The closer we got, the colder the air became, and I felt that prickling sensation along my spine again. Inside, the air was thick with dust, mold, and something else I couldn't quite identify. A metallic tang that made my stomach turn. The fluorescent lights were long dead, leaving us entirely in the beam of our flashlights. Every creak of the floorboards echoed in the emptiness, making us jump at every minor sound. "This place is insane," Lena whispered. "I can't believe we're actually doing this." "Shh," I said, trying to focus. "Listen." And then we heard it, a faint scratching sound coming from the far hallway. Not nails on wood, not a rat, but something deliberate, something moving. We froze. Marcus whispered, "Probably just wind?" "Yeah, definitely wind," but I knew better. That sound was too patterned, too purposeful. We edged down the hallway, flashlights cutting through the darkness, revealing peeling wallpaper, broken furniture, and faded graffiti that might have been decades old. Then we saw the first unsettling sign, a notebook lying open on the floor. The pages were yellowed and brittle, covered in scrawled handwriting that looked frantic. "Read it," Marcus said, crouching down. "This could be like a diary or something." I hesitated, but flipped the page. It was a report, it seemed, written by a student from the 1980s. The handwriting was jagged, almost frantic, describing strange occurrences in the abandoned wing, shadows that moved independently, objects disappearing, whispers calling names, and an overwhelming feeling of being watched. At the bottom of the page was a drawing, a tall, humanoid figure with spindly limbs and dark, hollow eyes. I shivered. "This isn't new. This has been happening for years." Lena turned pale. "Do you see that?" she said, pointing to a series of symbols etched into the wall next to the notebook. They were crude, angular shapes, repeated over and over like some sort of code. I had no idea what they meant, but they felt wrong. Marcus was already taking pictures, whispering, We've got evidence. This is gold. We moved deeper into the wing, following the narrow corridors, the shadows stretching long and strange under the flashlight beams. That's when things escalated. A door slammed somewhere down the hall, startling us so badly that Lena dropped her flashlight. It rolled across the floor with a hollow clatter, and for a moment, I thought we'd seen it move on its own, dodging around corners. I don't know how long we had been walking, but the air was growing heavier. I felt like I was breathing something solid, and then we heard it. Voices. Faint at first, whispering, unintelligible but urgent. We froze, listening. Did you hear that? Lena hissed. Yes, I whispered back. It's coming from over there. We followed the sound to a small classroom at the end of the hallway. The door was closed, but from inside came the whispers, now just loud enough that the words made my stomach twist. Leave, leave, leave. Marcus wanted to open the door, obviously. I held him back. No, we don't know what's in there. We just observe. We don't go poking around. We edged past, flashlight beams skimming the cracked tiles, and that's when the shadows started moving. Not like normal shadows, they flickered, darted across the walls, stretching unnaturally. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might break my ribcage. And then we saw it. Something standing in the corner of the hallway. Dark, tall, humanoid, like the drawing in the notebook. For a moment, I thought it was a janitor, then realized no one could move like that. Its limbs were too long, too fluid, its head tilted in a way no human head should. And just like that, it was gone. We sprinted, almost tripping over each other, toward the exit. When we burst out into the courtyard, gasping for air, it felt like sunlight and warmth had never been sweeter. We were alive but shaken, more aware than ever that whatever haunted this place wasn't going to stop. The next morning, the school administration finally started taking things seriously, but only barely. Principal Harris issued a notice. All students are reminded to stay away from restricted areas. Safety is our top priority. Reports of strange activity will be investigated, but students are reminded to follow school rules. No one believed them. Not really. The hallway to the abandoned wing had been sealed with chains and signs, but that didn't stop rumors. Students were sharing stories faster than ever. Lockers opening on their own, lights flickering in classrooms where no one had been. Voices calling names that no one was speaking. Some students refused to come to school at all, and the news even made it to the local papers. Willow Creek High's reputation was shifting. Once a regular high school, now the place where things disappear. By the end of the week, the panic had spread to nearly everyone. Marcus was obsessed with documenting it, posting videos online, muttering about ghosts and shadow beings. Lena and I tried to remain rational, but the fear was contagious. Every hallway felt wrong, every corner suspicious, every classroom potentially hiding something beyond our understanding. And the abandoned wing? It was calling to us, even though we all knew we should stay away. I couldn't shake the feeling that it had secrets, that it had been alive long before any of us were students, and that it was just waiting for the right moment to show us everything. I didn't know what we were dealing with, but I knew this much. Willow Creek High wasn't the same school anymore. And whatever had been in the wing, whatever had taken Jenny, or shown itself to us, was far from finished. The fear was growing. And so were we. We were starting to understand that the only way to survive it was to face it. I'll never forget that night. I can still feel the weight of the air, the way the shadows seemed to press against the walls, and the sound of my own heartbeat echoing in my ears like a drum warning of something I couldn't see but could feel. It was supposed to be a normal school night. The senior class had organized a charity sleepover event, a fundraiser with games, movies, and the usual awkward teenage bonding. I wasn't excited. After everything that had been happening, the shadows, the whispers, Jenny disappearing, the strange occurrences in the abandoned wing, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for us. But Marcus insisted. This is perfect. Everyone's here. The place is empty except us. We might actually get proof of what's going on. Lena was reluctantly going along, muttering about stupid ideas and this is a bad plan. And I was just trying to keep my friends from getting themselves killed. The evening started normally enough. The gym was filled with dim string lights. The cafeteria had snacks set up. And the auditorium had a projector playing old horror movies, which was ironic given what we knew. Students laughed, joked, and tried to ignore the tension that had been building all week. Even the teachers seemed distracted, glancing nervously toward the old wing like they didn't want to admit anything. We were in the auditorium, huddled near the back when the first weird thing happened. The lights flickered. Not the usual dim flicker from old wiring, but a sudden blackout that plunged the room into complete darkness. A collective gasp echoed through the auditorium. Probably a blown fuse, one of the teachers said, but the tremor in her voice gave her away. I fumbled for my flashlight, feeling Lena's hand grip mine tightly. Marcus had already pulled out his phone, recording, whispering, "We're gonna catch something insane tonight." That's when the sound started. Faint at first, like someone dragging furniture across the gym floor. Then footsteps, slow, deliberate, coming from the direction of the abandoned wing. No one had entered that hallway tonight. No one could have. I felt my stomach twist. Everyone, stay calm, just stay calm. I said it more for myself than anyone else. Suddenly, a loud crash came from the gym doors. Students screamed, chairs toppled. Something heavy hit the wall near the stage. I couldn't see what it was, but I felt it. Felt the presence of it moving around us, around the auditorium. Go! Get out of here, Lena shouted. Panic was spreading. Students rushed for the exits, but the doors slammed shut in unison. Not like wind or mechanics, like something with intelligence had decided we weren't leaving. We were trapped. The lights flickered back on briefly, revealing the shadow again. Tall, dark, and humanoid, but its limbs were wrong, too long, bending at impossible angles. It didn't walk, it glided. Silently, but with purpose. Marcus froze. Phone still recording. Eyes wide with disbelief and fear. Lena screamed, hiding behind me. I knew we had to move, to survive, but every instinct told me to stay frozen. The shadow stopped, just for a second, tilting its head toward us, and that was enough. I felt a chill in my bones, a cold so deep it made my teeth ache. We need to find another way out, I shouted. I grabbed Marcus and Lena's hands, dragging them toward the backstage doors. We stumbled through the chaos of screaming students, overturned chairs, and falling decorations. Then the whispers started. Hundreds of voices, overlapping, echoing through the gym and hallways, names, our names, everyone's names, calling, taunting, urgent, and inhuman. I tried not to think about what was happening. Just move. Just survive. We slipped behind the stage, crawling through the storage area that connected to the backstage corridor leading to the main hallways. That's when I saw it, writing on the wall, freshly scratched into the paint. Symbols. The same symbols Marcus and I had seen in the abandoned wing, but these were different. Larger. Darker. Almost pulsing in the dim light. And beneath them, a message. You shouldn't have come. Lena gagged. Marcus muttered something about proof, and I just swallowed hard, my throat dry. Whatever was in the school, it was intelligent. It knew we were here. It was aware of us. As we edged further, the lights flickered again. In one instant, we caught a glimpse of the shadow in the far hallway. It wasn't alone this time. Smaller shapes darted around it, flickering at the edge of our vision. Apparitions, maybe. I couldn't tell, but the effect was immediate. Students screaming, some running blindly, others frozen in terror. We made it to the old hallway that led to the abandoned wing. Marcus wanted to investigate, to see it closer, but I shoved him back. No, we're leaving, now. That's when the doors slammed behind us. Not one door, every door we had passed, locked, no key, nothing. We were trapped in the hallway. The shadows moving closer, whispering our names. I could feel the presence pressing against the walls, trying to reach us, trying to make us break. And then the scream. High-pitched, piercing, human but distorted, echoing down the corridor. One of the students had gotten separated, probably running in the wrong direction. The sound made my vision tunnel. I grabbed Marcus and Lena, dragging them forward, desperate to find anything. Any exit, any safety. That's when I saw the faint glow. A door, partially open, light spilling out. Not the gym lights, not the hallway lights. Something else, something alive. I didn't know what it was, but it felt like hope. We ran toward it, hearts pounding, lungs burning, but as we reached the door, we realized it wasn't an exit. It led to a small classroom in the abandoned wing. Inside, the room was empty, except for the desk in the middle and on it, a notebook. Another diary, just like the one we had found earlier. I grabbed it, flipping through the pages frantically. Symbols, drawings, descriptions of shadows, whispers, and warnings. It watches. It waits. Do not stay. Suddenly, the lights flickered one last time. The shadows in the hallway outside the classroom shifted, coalescing into something massive. Too tall, too wide, impossibly fast. And then it stopped, as if studying us, waiting. We backed into the corner, clutching each other. Marcus's phone was still recording, capturing the faintest outline of the thing outside the door. Lena was trembling so badly I thought she might collapse. And then, just like that, it vanished. The doors unlocked. The lights returned to normal. Students poured into the hallway, screaming, crying, hugging each other. The shadow was gone. Whatever it was, it had retreated. The aftermath was chaotic. Teachers tried to restore order, but students were hysterical. Many refused to stay, demanding to leave immediately. Jenny's name came up again. She had seen shadows before, but this was different. This was bigger, more deliberate. The school had crossed some line. By the time I got home that night, I felt drained, hollow, and more aware than ever that Willow Creek High was no longer a place of normal teenage life. Something ancient, something intelligent, something malevolent had awakened, and it had marked us. I didn't understand it then. I still don't. But that night changed everything. Friendships were tested. Marcus almost panicked and ran off. Lena and I clung to each other, unsure who or what we could trust. And me? I knew I had to find answers, somehow. The shadows were real, the whispers were real, and whatever had been in that hallway, in that gym, in the abandoned wing, it wasn't done with us yet, and I was terrified. The morning after the chaos, Willow Creek High felt like a different place. Walking into school, the air was thick with tension, heavy with whispers, and charged with the kind of fear that doesn't fade after a single night. The hallways were eerily quiet for the first 10 minutes until small clusters of students started whispering, sharing fragmented stories and trying to make sense of what had happened. I had never seen my school like this. Normally, the halls were alive with chatter, laughter, and the occasional fight or prank. Today, it was subdued. Nervous laughter, nervous glances, and a lot of wide-eyed staring at corners that had always been mundane. Even the teachers seemed on edge, their voices tight and forced as they tried to maintain some semblance of order. The rumor mill was already spinning at full speed. By the time I reached my locker, I heard a dozen different versions of the night's events. Did you see that shadow? It was huge. No, people were screaming names calling us. I swear I heard my own voice over the intercom. They said Jenny knew something, she's hiding it. Marcus was practically bouncing with adrenaline. This is insane. Everyone saw it. Everyone. I got footage. We could post it. Proof. I shook my head. Marcus, focus. This isn't about posting online. We need to figure out what's happening before someone else gets hurt. Lena looked exhausted, her hair sticking to her forehead, dark circles under her eyes. I just want to understand why it's happening. Why this school? The administration was trying their best in their usual way. Principal Harris gave a morning announcement over the PA system, his voice calm but forced. Students, we understand that last night's events were unusual. We are conducting a thorough investigation, and safety is our top priority. Please remain in your classrooms, avoid restricted areas, and report anything unusual immediately. Remember, panic only makes the situation worse. No one listened, or maybe no one could. Students whispered, exchanged glances, and debated every detail. Some refused to enter certain hallways. Others carried their phones constantly, recording shadows, flickering lights, or anything that might confirm their worst fears. The media even got wind of it. By lunchtime, a few reporters had camped outside the school gates, asking questions, filming reactions, and trying to capture footage of students or staff experiencing the paranormal. Their cameras flashed into classrooms, hallways, and courtyards. It was surreal, like our private terror had been turned into a spectacle for the world to see. Everyone had a theory. Some blamed the school's age, claiming it was old wiring, faulty lights, and drafts causing shadows to appear. Others said it was a prank orchestrated by seniors, though no one could explain how hundreds of people could be trapped or hear whispers with no one there. Then there were those who believed something supernatural had awakened, something ancient tied to the abandoned wing. Lena and I sat together at lunch, trying to process the chaos. Do you think it's real? She asked quietly, poking at her salad. I know it is, I said, glancing around at the students, still trembling, whispering, and staring at corners. I saw it. We all did. And it's not done. Marcus naturally chimed in from across the table, excitement overtaking his fear. Think about it. This is bigger than anything we imagined. Shadow beings, apparitions, unexplained whispers. It's proof that something beyond our world exists. I glared at him. Proof doesn't matter if people get hurt. Focus. The day dragged on, tense and surreal. Teachers tried to maintain order, but everyone was on edge. Even small things set students off. A flickering light, a creaking floorboard, a locker door closing unexpectedly. By third period, conspiracy theories were rampant. Some students claimed that the shadows were tied to a curse from the school's construction, an old foundation hidden under the abandoned wing. Others whispered about secret societies, student experiments, and even government experiments. One group insisted the school had been built over a burial ground. Another suggested it was an AI experiment gone wrong, left behind by a tech company decades ago. I overheard someone muttering about dimensional rifts and nearly laughed, except the fear in their eyes made it impossible. By afternoon, the administration took additional measures. No one was allowed near the abandoned wing, security was doubled, and counselors were brought in for anyone experiencing extreme fear or trauma. Yet none of these precautions could quiet the unease that had settled over the students. I walked the halls with Marcus and Lena, our footsteps echoing unnaturally loud. Every time we passed the corridor to the abandoned wing, I felt that cold prickle along my spine. It was like the building itself was reminding us of the night's events, whispering that it hadn't forgotten us. Do you think it's coming back? Lena asked quietly. I don't know, I admitted, but I know it isn't finished. Whatever's there, it's waiting. The rest of the week passed in a haze. Students avoided certain areas, rumors spread faster than ever, and small incidents, flickering lights, whispers, objects moving slightly, continued, though less intense than the initial terror. It was enough to keep everyone anxious, jumping at shadows, questioning every sound, and reconsidering whether Willow Creek High was ever truly safe. Even amidst the fear, I started noticing things about myself. The terror had changed me. I was more observant, more cautious, but also more determined. I had learned that survival required focus, courage, and trust. Marcus had learned, well, Marcus was still Marcus, recording everything, but I think even he was learning to respect the danger. Lena had found a quiet strength, keeping herself and others calm when panic threatened to take over. By the end of the week, the school's culture had shifted irreversibly. Whispered warnings, nervous glances, and lingering unease replaced casual chatter. Students clung to friends they trusted, forming tight groups for safety. Everyone was watching everything: teachers, hallways, corners, even the ceiling. I reflected on all of it as I sat in the library one afternoon, flipping through old yearbooks and school records, searching for patterns. There was something in the history of the abandoned wing, something hidden that no one seemed to know or remember. The fear had made me more curious, more driven. I realized that the terror we'd faced had awakened something inside me, something I hadn't expected, the need to understand, to uncover the truth, no matter how unsettling it might be. And even as the whispers faded into uneasy silence and the shadows seemed dormant, I knew one thing: Willow Creek High would never be the same again. Fear had settled into its walls, into its students, and into me. The events of that night would ripple through the school for years, shaping friendships, testing courage, and leaving scars that weren't visible but were impossible to ignore. Whatever had happened wasn't over. I could feel it lingering, like a shadow at the edge of my vision. And deep down, I knew that soon we'd have to confront it again. The aftermath wasn't just fear. It was a lesson about trust, courage, and the thin line between the normal and the unexplainable. Willow Creek High was no longer a place for ordinary high school life. It had become a crucible, testing every student who walked its halls. And me, I was ready, or as ready as anyone could be, for whatever came next. By the time the first month passed after that night, Willow Creek High was unrecognizable. The school had physically changed. Security cameras were installed in every hallway. Doors that led to the abandoned wing were reinforced and sealed with new locks, and a guard was stationed at the entrance of the old building. But the real change wasn't structural. It was in the students, the culture, and the air itself. Classes were smaller, attendance dropped, students transferred out in waves, citing personal reasons or family concerns, though no one doubted it had something to do with what had happened. The whispers about shadows and unexplained events persisted, now punctuated by older students who swore they'd seen figures moving where no one should have been. I walked through the halls one morning and realized how quiet it had become. The chatter that once filled every corner was subdued, hesitant. Groups huddled together, sharing rumors or theories in hushed tones. The fear hadn't left. It had simply settled into a constant low hum, like the vibration of a string that's just tight enough to make a note you can't hear but can feel in your chest. Marcus was still obsessed. He spent most of his free time taking notes, recording hallways, and mapping every strange occurrence in the school. He had developed a notebook thicker than my history textbook, filled with sketches, symbols, and accounts from students who had witnessed something inexplicable. "I'm telling you, it's a pattern," Marcus said one afternoon, showing me a page with overlapping shadows drawn in impossible shapes. "Every weird thing, it's connected. It's all here. We just haven't figured it out yet." I nodded, though I wasn't as enthusiastic. My focus had shifted from proving the phenomenon to simply surviving it and understanding how to coexist with it. Lena had the same mindset. We stopped chasing shadows directly and started observing, learning, trying not to provoke whatever was still lurking in the school. The administration continued to downplay events publicly. Safety meetings, counseling sessions, and lectures about respecting school rules became routine, but no amount of speeches could erase the unease. Teachers themselves admitted in private that they felt something had changed in the building, something they couldn't explain. A few even refused to stay after dark, leaving their classrooms empty during late activities. Some students became obsessed with the truth. They would sneak into the abandoned wing at night, flashlights trembling in their hands, notebooks ready, hoping to capture proof of the shadows or the voices. A few never admitted what they saw, but the pallor in their faces and the way they flinched at ordinary sounds spoke volumes. Others retreated entirely, refusing to set foot near anything that reminded them of the night. I walked past the abandoned wing one afternoon, staring at the reinforced doors and the freshly painted warnings. Even from a distance, I felt it, like the building itself was alive, waiting. The cold, familiar prickle ran down my spine, and for a moment, I thought I saw movement through the cracks in the windows. But when I blinked, nothing was there. It struck me how much the event had changed me. I was more cautious, more aware, more capable of seeing things I never noticed before. My friendships had shifted. Marcus and Lena remained my closest allies, bound by the shared experience and the need to survive. The others had scattered, either in fear or indifference, but the bond we shared was stronger than anything school life had offered before. And yet, no one had answers. No one knew what had caused the shadows, the whispers, or the terrifying night that had forever altered our school. Theories abounded, some rational, some absurd, all speculative. We had clues, scraps of evidence, but nothing conclusive. The truth remained elusive, teasing, and unreachable, just beyond our understanding. Still, life went on. Classes continued, homework was assigned, tests were given, but beneath the routine, the undercurrent of fear persisted. Students avoided certain hallways, cast wary glances at corners, and whispered about what might be lurking just out of sight. Even years later, seniors would pass on stories of the shadows, the whispers, and the night the school had changed forever. And through it all, I realized something profound. It wasn't the shadows themselves that had changed us. It was the experience of facing the unknown, of surviving something completely unexplainable. It forced courage, forged bonds, and instilled a cautious respect for the things we can't see, but can feel. As I walked past the sealed doors of the abandoned wing one last time, I paused. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the schoolyard. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw a figure in the corner of the window. Tall and dark, almost human, but not quite. My pulse raced, and I blinked. Nothing. I told myself it was just a trick of the light, but deep down, I knew better. Whatever had haunted Willow Creek High that night, whatever had claimed our fear and left its mark, it was still there, watching, waiting, patient, and I couldn't shake the feeling that one day it would decide we were ready for it again. Willow Creek High was never going to be the same. None of us were. And neither was I. None of us were. And neither was I.